And we're live.
So about the thing of like them uniting and everything in there, like my first 60 days, you know, I picked up on Calvin and I picked up on Matt pretty much within the first 10 minutes of hearing them talk and seeing them and everything. Did you say how?
Yeah. What was the giveaway?
Calvin, like, he was just asking me a lot of questions, like an interviewer would, you know, like a reporter, like, oh, what kind of family do you come from? Like, just asking so many questions that I was just like, nah, man, there's something off about you. And I'm just I'm going to play this one out and we'll see how it comes around. But, and then Matt, when he came in, his story, just the story, I was like, yeah, all right, he's one of us. So then I kind of brought everybody together and I was like, hey, look, like, you know, I just want you guys to know I got your guys' back if anything ever happens in here. And Calvin just, he almost cried. Like, he was so excited. He, you know, him and I, we gave each other a hug. But man, having somebody in there, that's big, you know, just having somebody that you can talk to, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're in character, right? Like I'm being somebody that I'm not. So being able to actually like break character and go talk to someone and just be real with them. I mean, it definitely gave a little bit of clarity in my mind. The second season, Andrew and Alan, when they came in, I knew from the minute they walked into the pod without even talking to them who they were and why they were here. And I chose not to actually reveal that to them. So that was pretty difficult, man. That added to my depression in there, because I watched them. I actually, like, you know, from afar, watched them actually come together and figure one another out. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. I just watched you guys kind of like release that information to each other. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
And the whole time they're thinking like, man, that Marine, don't mess with him. I don't know what he did, but all the black guys and the white guys seem to like him.
So, and it was really cool. I wish that A&E would have done a little bit better of a job on kind of revealing me to the cast on the reunion, because none of them guys knew. So they brought them all out first, but they didn't even have cameras rolling. They didn't even record any of it. And then I came out lastly, and their faces just were just like, no way, like. What in the world? I never in a million years expected you. So,
yeah, I know I would do poorly in there, but I know that I wouldn't do the chick thing. I would at least try.
Well,
you know,
what would be your downfall? Oh, Kyle, what would be your downfall in doing poorly in prison or jail? Either
being a smart ass or something, like accidentally saying something, being like bitch or something like that accidentally, and then suddenly I'm target on my back.
You try to explain like the joke was too good not to say. What? That doesn't happen to you?
No, I was doing an impression of your voice as a bit.
but my question would be, why try? Why make your time in there any more difficult or risky than it needs to be? Like, if they're paying me a bonus, okay, sure. If they're like, yeah, this is your base pay and this is your pay if you find X, Y, and Z. All right, well, that's a different story. But if they're like, yeah, you're part of a TV show, you get paid this. We want you to find some drug dealers, maybe some weaponry, any intel you can find would be good. All right, do I get paid for more for that? Oh, no. All right, well, I'm going to sit over here and play fucking checkers for 60 days. There's no way I'm like going to act suspiciously around anybody.
I know you're right.
There was a point where actually production pulled me in for an interview and they said, you do know we're filming like a reality show, right? And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, you've just been hanging out in your room reading a book. I'm like, I'm in jail.
Yeah. You already signed the papers. I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
I think about going into that show the same way I imagine losing a bunch of weight. Where I'll just think like, man, that would be sick. And then reality comes around. It's like, nah. Like, I guarantee I would go in with like, man, I'm going to make sure I'm one of the contestants that people like. And then after like a day or maybe even like 40 minutes, I'd be like, no, I'm going to try and survive and not get beat up. Would be my modus
You
operandi.
come out of there with some teardrop tattoos or something. You go the complete opposite direction.
I come out that way. I got totally shaved, just no hair whatsoever.
Yeah,
I talked about that before, where I was like they're inducting you into the brotherhood, and you're like, yeah, you know, make me earn those swastikas. Start out with just an eagle, but make it look, you know, kind of like the American eagle. Like not too angular, please. Oh no. Get away with that.
Put a big 88 on your back. You're like, what does this mean? Don't worry about it.
My favorite player is Patrick Kane. Get a swastika. Have to turn it into a Windows logo. I just fucking love Vista, dude. Nobody else did, but I stand. Was there a full body portrait of Adolf Hitler on your back?
That's Charlie Chaplin.
It's Charlie Chaplin.
Huge Chaplin fan.
You gotta get the cover up where he's got the cane and the top hat and everything to like make it right.
No, but I don't want to spend the money. I've got Hitler in full Nazi fucking regalia, and then all I do is add the hat. But he's still Sig Island over there.
The jacket. He's
the jacket. No, it's
He's giving the salute and everything.
It's like, no, you don't remember Charlie Chaplin from that role? Hitler? Yeah. Like, was he even alive around then? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that would be very tough to have someone approach you and want you to have them do. That's what I would fear the most, is going in, having somebody wanting you to do a favor and knowing they've got a bunch of heavy hitters behind them and being like, what do I even do? I can't say, I guess they would tell you, the guards would tell you to say no. But in the moment, I feel like I'd be like, yeah, dude, I'll fucking get you Tylenol from the place. And then before I know it, I'm giving hand jobs to Arian.
Yeah, I fell in a similar situation when my tablet got broke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys watched that that part, but so the guy's name Swole broke the tablet, slid it underneath my door, and then was like, "Oh man, you must have stepped on it or something when you opened your door." I'm like, "Yeah, that didn't happen, dude." But all of like the Bloods, the Crips, the like GD, like everybody came together, and they were like, "Hey, look, like we're gonna roll on this dude, but we need you to make that first move." And I'm sitting in my cell thinking like, I can't be a bitch, but I also like can't just go out there and just blast this dude for no reason either, you know. And I mean, these dudes were talking about like shanking him with mop hand, like, you know, breaking the mop stick, you know, dropping the mop bucket off the top balcony. I mean, I'm like, what if this dude ends up dead? And I threw the first punch, like,
yeah, you're about to be on 6,000 days in.
Yeah,
how'd it work out? What'd you do?
Well, actually, so there was a lot of issues that he was causing in our pod. I mean, he was hijacking a lot of people, just taking everybody's commissary. And he was actually even intimidating the trustees that were delivering food. So he had an altercation with one of the trustees from dinner. And the whole like him breaking my tablet happened after dinner. So when we got locked up that night, the green team actually came in and pulled him out. So it worked out perfect. And everybody was like, man, why did he get pulled out? And I was like, oh, I guess it was because of that trustee, that altercation he had with that trustee. But most likely it was because of the altercation with you know, myself and a combination of everything else. But
yeah, that was really fortunate that panned out. That
absolutely.
They knew you, or like you told them you were only in for 60 days, right? Or
no. Yeah, nobody knows how long you're going to be in jail unless you went to court. And I hadn't been to court yet. So, you know, and that's the other thing, man. Those inmates, they know the system. They know, like, you know, what your crime is, how long you'll probably be there. So they were like, oh man, you'll probably only be here for like a month and a half tops, you know? And then like, as my case progressed, like, you know, like my sentencing, I was like, man, I'm getting close. You know, I started like building like, you know, these stories like, oh yeah, you know, I've been in talks with my lawyer. he's actually fighting it, and he's saying that we're not taking any plea bargains or anything like that. We're fighting this whole thing all the way through. So it's getting pushed, further and further. And then, when I actually stayed longer, I was like, man, how am I going to push this? Like 60 days, that's about a maximum sentence for what I did,
What'd you do?
Yeah.
But I don't even remember how I kind of worked that one in, but everybody believed me. So
what was your supposed crime?
So my cover story was that like an ex-girlfriend had taken a bunch of jewelry from my family, and she had threatened to sell it. And I was like, no. So I drove there. I knocked on her door. She opened the door. And then when she tried closing it, I stopped the door, which is breaking and entering. I don't know if anybody knows that or not, but that is technically breaking and entering. If you stop someone from closing their door. So that's breaking and entering. And her boyfriend was home, he was a police officer, but he was off duty at the time. He came out, him and I got into a physical altercation. The police came, and then all of the police are his buddies. So we went to Fulton County instead of being, I don't even remember where I was locked up originally. So.
You see, you told that really well. And I'm glad we got to the cover story part, because that's something I think is hilarious about this whole show is you can tell in early seasons, they were giving cover stories like, hey, so their inmates could ask, what are you in for? And they'll be like, oh, I got caught, armed robbery in a jewelry store. And then I stole a couple grand worth of stuff, and they caught me driving down, Stevenson Street right there in Atlanta or wherever it was. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And then because in the early seasons, the inmates were like, yeah, that's really simple. By the time you get to like season 5, they are sabotaging the shit out of these contestants, where they'll be like, hey, what are you in for? And he's like, well, unbeknownst to me, you cannot skydive on Sundays in Connecticut. And I'm here now because of that. So I'll be in at least 60 days. And it's like, oh man, this motherfucker, let's rape him. Like it's like that level. Really? Have you noticed that? I'm sure you did. They fuck.
I haven't watched a lot of the seasons after my own.
I didn't follow what you were saying. Why is that fucking them? Is it because they're not tough enough? Is there
no? Just because they can poke holes in it. They make it so by season 5, they're making it so convoluted and complex that the inmates will be like, wait, you said earlier that you did theft. Wait, and the only charge was theft? That's not how that works. You would also get intimidation because you were carrying this. Why the hell aren't you there for that? And like the inmates know enough, and then the contestant gets tripped up because they only have the memorized script they got, and so they don't know the ins and outs of the legal system.
They've got the broad strokes. So like, there's the one guy whose story was that he had ran a stop sign on like I-75 or something like that, and like
those interstate stop signs.
They're like, there ain't no stop sign on 75, bro. Yeah, there was. I ran it. There's one. And there's like, nah, that don't sound right. That don't sound right at all.
Woody, you're exactly right, because then it showed the little overhead camera in the inmate's cell being like, motherfucker said he ran a stop sign on the interstate. How the fuck do you run a stop sign on the interstate? Or of all the contestants, of what you've seen, because you didn't watch after years, who kind of pissed you off the most in how shitty they were at it? If there was anybody where you're just like, man, this guy's just fail after fail.
I mean, to be honest, I watched a couple episodes from the first season. I mean, like 2 tops. And then I watched my season, literally just like last year. And then I watched 1 or 2 episodes of the last couple seasons. So I really I can't say, anybody. I mean, I thought I did the worst, to be honest. I don't know why I stayed in. I don't know why they chose me. Maybe I was the only one that decided to. I don't know.
They did not ask the other contestants to stay in. I can tell you that. The reason they picked you is because you were the only one who wasn't knocking on death's door by the end of the 60 days.
Yeah.
Everybody else was almost about to fall apart, but that's really cool.